Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Manulife Business Success Series webinar on funding options for businesses who want to hire students. My name is Allison Mitchell, and I'm the Program Manager for the Access Student Talent Program at the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people, as we seek a renewed relationship based on the foundation of mutual understanding and respect. Today's session would not be possible without the continued support of our sponsors. A special thank you to our title sponsor for the Business Success Series, Manulife, and our platinum sponsor for the series, Immigration Partnership. These organizations are committed to supporting our local economy and providing businesses with the resources and tools that they need to thrive. I would now like to welcome Scott Lee, Senior Talent Acquisition Consultant with Manulife, to say a few words.
Thank you, Allison, and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Manulife, we're very proud to sponsor the Business Success Series. And as myself, I'm a Senior Talent Acquisition Consultant and Team Lead for the Campus Talent Acquisition team in North America. So I am very much in tune with our campus programming and student hiring. We are very passionate about bringing in students into the organization. We typically hire about 600 or 700 students across North America, which help feed about 100 of our new graduate full-time positions. So really value the partnership we have with our universities and providing opportunities to students across the organization, like I said, across North America as well, not just in Canada. We really do value the opportunity to bring students in, gain very valuable corporate experience, and also to really help revitalize the company culture, especially in the changing times that we're all going through, creating a much more adaptable workforce, a much more diverse workforce. Something that's very near and dear to our hearts, and something we're really passionate about continuing on and fostering going forward. We do have a strong relationship with a number of schools across Canada and across the United States. We really do value those partnerships as well, looking for any ways to increase our programs and help build the success across the board. So I thank everybody for allowing us to speak and for providing such a timely topic regarding the student funding opportunities. So that's all from me, and back to you, Allison.
Great, thanks so much, Scott. We are thrilled to have Manulife on board with this series as we work to support local businesses during this time. Just before the session starts today, I'd like to go over a few quick reminders. Please ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the presentation so we can reduce any background noise. If you have any questions that come up throughout the session, please feel free to type them into the questions box in your control panel. If your questions are tech related, then a representative from our team will get back to you momentarily. If your questions are for today's presenter, then they'll be gathered throughout the presentation, and our presenter will do her best to answer your questions at the end. All attendees will be sent a recording of today's presentation as well as the slides. The webinar will also be made available on the Greater KW Chamber website. Before we dive into today's presentation, I would like to take a brief moment to provide an overview of the Access Student Talent Program. Our Access Student Talent Program at the Chamber launched in 2018, and we launched the program in collaboration with Conestoga College, Wilfrid Laurier University, and the University of Waterloo to help small businesses more easily connect with post-secondary students for work integrated learning opportunities. We are pleased to be partnered for this program with the Business Higher Education Roundtable. And we're basically here to help any small business who is interested in learning more about working with students, and we're here to provide the education on how to work with students and all the different ways that you can work with students, and then do some of the research for you. Work integrated learning is a model that really allows the student to take the information that they've learned within school and apply it in a workplace setting or a simulated workplace setting. And we are happy to work with both chamber members and non-chamber members in our program. When we talk about working with students, many people think about working with students in a co-op capacity, which is absolutely a great option, and it's the option that Kitty will be focusing on today in terms of funding. There are other options that businesses can work with students, including field placements, capstone projects, in-class projects, apprenticeships. So just know that there are a lot of different options that are available for businesses to work with students. Students bring a lot of benefits to employers. So as an employer, working with students can help build your talent pipeline. Students can bring in some creative and innovative ideas, and it can really help fill that temporary employment gap. So if you've got a project that you need done, it's not a project that is large enough that would maybe require you to hire an employee full-time or part-time, then maybe engaging with a student on a temporary basis would be a great option for you. Some of the examples that we have been able to connect local employers with at our educational partners include a social media class, so an employer working with a group of students within a social media class, and that group of students will build a 6-month social media plan for the business. Of course, co-op, and there are co-op opportunities across all different disciplines and sectors at all 3 schools. So if hiring a co-op student is something that you're interested in, that is absolutely a great option, and Conestoga, Laurier, and Waterloo would be a great option for you. Field placements are available, so if you, again, have a smaller project that's maybe a few weeks that you could use some help on, that could be a great option for you. Another in-class project example is we partnered a business with an ideation class at Laurier, and those students helped the employer come up with some different ideas on things that they could do with the business as a result of challenges they were facing because of the pandemic. So how we help businesses is, like I said, we are talking to businesses about working with students. If a business is interested, then we'll talk to you about what your needs are. We'll take that information. We will go to the 3 post-secondary schools and figure out what options you might have for working with a student, and we'll summarize it and send that back to you. If there's an option you're interested in exploring further, then we will connect you with the right people at the school. So with our program, we're not working directly with the students. We are working directly with the small businesses and providing the information about working with students, doing the research, and then making the right connections for you. And if you have any questions about the Access Student Talent Program, or you're interested in learning more about working with students, please feel free to reach out to me. And now we will move to the part of our presentation about funding opportunities for businesses. And I am really pleased to introduce Kitty Runstedler. Kitty is an employer relations consultant at Conestoga College. She has worked in cooperative education at the college since 2000 and has 12 years prior experience training and consulting in the private sector. She has helped over 10,000 students find co-op and graduate employment. Her current portfolio of students are in IT, computer science, electronics engineering programs. As an employer relations consultant, she connects employers with students, helps to navigate the best program fit, and promotes opportunities across multiple resources to ensure maximum exposure and build employer brand on campus. Please join me in welcoming Kitty.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Allison, and I want to thank the Greater KW Chamber for hosting this session, and to all of you for attending today. And I'm going to probably rapidly fire through some slides, but I also want to let everyone know I'm going to be sharing links on these slides, and they will be available to all the participants through the chamber after this session, so you don't have to madly try and capture the URL links that I'm going to share with you. So jumping right into my first, I just wanted, Allison, if you want to jump to the next slide. Thank you. Allison kind of touched on this, but there's many forms of work integrated learning, and a lot of the funding I'm going to talk to you about will be probably specific to cooperative education at the post-secondary level, we do tend to use a generic term a lot of times when we hire students to say, I'm hiring a co-op student. But at post-secondary level, co-op has a very defined term and definition. So you will see me reference a lot of funding specific to co-op, but I'm also going to capture some of these other areas as well of WIL where the funding is getting expanded across the board. Next slide. So the first one I wanted to highlight was the Cooperative Education Tax Credit. This tax credit is available for Ontario businesses for the taxation year that the work term placement happened. And this tax credit is a refundable credit. And the way it works is if your payroll in the previous taxation year was $400,000 or less, you'd be entitled to claim 30% of the payroll costs. If it's over $600,000, you're entitled to claim 25%, and anything in between is a sliding scale that gets calculated. The maximum you can claim is $3,000 per student per each 4-month work term. There's no application up front. You claim this on your annual tax return, and there's no limit to the number of co-op students you can hire and claim each semester. Next. So the qualifying co-op work placement. So a student must be enrolled at an eligible academic institution. They must perform duties that are for an eligible employer under a qualifying co-op program. So you do want to make sure that the student is in a qualified co-op program. And you will know, and I'm going to talk more about that, how that eligibility will be confirmed. So they must meet the following. So developed or approved by an eligible academic institution, the student must be engaged in productive work and not just be an observer. The work placement is not less than 8 months or more than 16 for an internship, or for at least 10 weeks for all other qualifying co-op programs. And most co-op programs you're going to see follow a 4-month academic semester model. Again, you want to check with your academic partner to make sure your position meets their requirements, because they're the ones that are going to qualify it. The student must be paid for the work performed, and the employer supervises and evaluates the student job performance, as well as the academic institution is monitoring the student progress. And this is often done either by a midterm site visit or online through surveys. Next slide. Okay. So an eligible employer, all corporations or unincorporated businesses with permanent establishments in Ontario who are subject to Ontario corporate income tax or Ontario personal income tax. And eligible educational institutions include all provincially funded Ontario University or College of Applied Arts, the Michener Institute of Applied Health Sciences, the Ontario College of Art and Design, and Redeemer University College. Next. So the supporting documentation you'll need. So you must have confirmation documentation from an eligible educational institution, which takes me back to making sure you are working with those academic partners, that it is an eligible co-op program, and that the co-op is properly registered and recorded, otherwise you won't get a letter. So the document must contain the name of the student, the employer, the institution, the term of the work placement, and the name discipline of the co-op program. And your academic partners know this requirement and will prepare those letters on behalf of your student that you hire. The letters are typically sent to employers at the end of each 4-month work term, usually within 3 to 4 weeks of the term ending. And you, as an employer, are not required to submit the letter with your tax return, but you will keep that letter on file to support the claim if requested. And we often at Conestoga, and I'm sure my other academic partners at other institutions can attest to the same, we often know when an employer has had a letter request. Often a year later, we will get asked if we could resend the letter, and definitely your partners can do that for you. And you can get more information at the link there. So moving forward then, the Career Ready Drivability is a new funding program. This is funded through the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development. Conestoga is in partnership with 6 other post-secondary institutions to deliver the Career Ready Fund. And again, this is a provincially funded program. And the purpose of this is to increase quality and quantity of experiential learning opportunities available to post-secondary students, recent grads, and apprentices in Ontario's automotive manufacturing and advanced manufacturing sectors. There's also some industry partners delivering this funding. So eligible employers can receive between $3,000 to $15,000 per student, and you can contact Drivability at conestogac.on.ca for more information on how to apply for this funding. Next. The next area is, it's going to be a big area for me to cover, and this is the Student Work Placement Program. This program is funded by Employment and Social Development Canada, ESDC. It was initially launched in 2017 with up to 11,500 new work integrated learning opportunities to be created by 2021. In budget 2019, the program was expanded to 84,000 work placements to be created by 2013. And I just highlight quickly below how that breaks out. And I won't spend time on that, Allison. We'll just kind of move past. So how the program works. So ESDC works with employer delivery partners by recognized associations and organizations that represent the interests of employers within their industries. And they work with these businesses and post-secondary education institutions to provide wage subsidies to employers that offer quality student work placements, and as well create partnerships with their colleges, universities, polytechnics, and CEGEPs in Quebec to create students for these placements. So what is considered a student work placement? So a student work placement can include activities, but not limited to mentorship programs, co-op placements, practicums, applied research projects, and internships. And I'm going to highlight this a little bit more further on. The way the funding works, and I just put a little notation in here because there were some changes to this funding for an exception for the COVID-19, and I'm going to cover that on the next slide because it only covers a short period of time. But the program will revert back to what I'm going to show you right here. So 50% of the student wage up to a maximum of $5,000 and 70% of the wages to $7,000 for students from an underrepresented group. And the underrepresented group would be women in STEM, Indigenous students, newcomers, persons with disabilities, first-year students, and the funding is available for 12 to 16 weeks normally. And again, I'm going to speak to the COVID updates in a minute. So as mentioned in 2019, the program expanded, and this expansion also included a bigger, broader range of programs. So arts programs that support technology companies and could include roles in graphic design, UI, UX, etc. And I'll talk more about that when we get to each of the partners. Employers can stack provincial funding with the SWPP funding, but you cannot stack other forms of federal funding. For example, the Canada Summer Jobs, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, or any NSERC research funding that you're receiving. So any federal funding cannot be stacked. So the COVID response update, and these measures are going to be in place, as we know right now, until March 31st, 2021. And this funding could potentially, for a winter work term that ends in April, could potentially get prorated for that last month. And again, each partner will be determining that within their funding criteria. So the COVID response, Net new, which was a requirement for student placements, has been removed. The fund now is covering up to 75% of student placements to a maximum of $7,500 per placement. That's pretty nice funding. And it will cover small and medium-sized employers would be eligible, including not-for-profit organizations. And again, the funding may be up to 75% of the wages up front, with the remaining coming halfway through the placement. And that will be wrapping up, as mentioned, on March 31st. And just carry over to the next slide for a few more. So students are able to work from home or other safe remote work sites. Post-secondary institutions are now also able to be the employer of record. And this is a really good option for anyone that's looking to partner with universities on research opportunities that students could then be on the academic partners payroll and still receive funding through this program. And SWEP partners have a pre-approval checklist, so you can find out if you're eligible for funding before going through the hiring process. And this pre-approval, some of the partners continue to keep it, and you'll see on the continuing slides. And again, I just want to remind you that these conditions right now will revert back to the original funding criteria as of March 31st. So just some general overview. Students must be on the employer's payroll. However, it's always best to check with each funding partner in case there are any exceptions. The employer, and I use the word may, but for the most part, you're going to need to be able to pay the student wages up front. Reimbursement is typically 3 to 6 weeks at the end of the work term upon submission of all required documentation to validate that payment was made. Some program partners will require the student to be hired prior to you applying, but the student, even though you've applied for the funding, you have to have that student hired ahead of time. You don't want the student to start working until you've been approved for the funding. So where this would kind of clear this is you're hiring the student right now, applying for the funding, but the student won't start working until January, and you want to make sure you've applied before the student starts working. And again, some partners may offer pre-assessment to determine that student eligibility, or it might be that they're going to give eligibility, and most of them give really good guidelines on the criteria for getting approved, so you can determine if your job itself would meet that eligibility. There is no student limit to how many students you can apply for funding, but the funding is limited and at the discretion of the funding partners to disperse equitably across Canada. So they're not going to load up any one school or geographical area. Again, they're trying to spread this funding to make sure that everybody has access to it. But there is a lot of funding available. Employers may need to provide business insurance coverage, and some of the partners may have restrictions on whether you can hire immediate family. And again, that will fall on each partner. So student eligibility, this is a general eligibility, and each partner will have more specific to their area, but they must be enrolled in a post-secondary education institution. They must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or protected person under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which means that international students or students using a student visa or work permit are not eligible for the funding at this time. The student must be legally entitled to work in Canada, including under the laws and regulations of the province concerned. And again, check with each funding partner for any additional criteria specific to their program. And again, as we go forward, each partner has their own identity and criteria for the funding. Next. So the partners currently involved with this funding is BioTalent, the Canadian Council for Aviation and Aerospace, the Electricity Human Resources Canada, Environment Careers Organization Canada, Information and Communications Technology Council, Magnet, they're new to the cohort, Mining Industry, Human Resources Council, Tech Nation, formerly was ITEC, the Toronto Finance International, and Venture for Canada. And I'll just go through each one at a quick high level. So BioTalent, they're looking for organizations to hire roles related in biotechnology and have recently added healthcare organizations to their eligibility. They're accepting applications for all co-op placements starting before March 2021. And you will need to hire a student before applying, and you can get more information, and the contacts are below at the links. Next. Canadian Council for Aerospace and Aviation, kind of as the organization's name says, they're looking for funding for companies within the aerospace and aviation industry or organizations. And the employers need to hire a student before applying. If you don't have a candidate in mind, you can post your opportunity with a college and or universities directly. If you have academic institutions you like to partner with already, or if you're unsure what's available out there, they do have a matching service for aviation and aerospace industry through the Magnet Today platform, and the link is there. You can submit your application at the link below, and again, the contact information is on this slide. Next. The Electricity Human Resources Canada, their program is called Empowering Futures. And you're going to see some of these partners have a different name for their funding, but it is still all the Student Work Placement Program funding. So their Empowering Futures is looking for organizations supporting the electrical and power sector. And they have an employer application form that you submit along with a brief company description and description of the co-op position. Their application process from submission to approval takes approximately 5 to 10 business days. You do not need to hire a student up front before you apply. You can get pre-approval. That's good for the 30 days to get you a student hired. And again, their link and contact information is below. Next. Environmental Careers Organization of Canada, EcoCanada. So they're looking for organizations hiring within the environmental sector and looking to hire students from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Their work terms can be full-time or part-time from 6 to 16 weeks. Applications open 3 months prior to start of co-op session. And again, the links are below here that you can do an eligibility quiz ahead of time. And then, of course, the application process to follow, and their contact info is there. CETC, their program is called the Will Digital Subsidy, and they're looking to support organizations in one of the following emerging sectors: advanced manufacturing, AI, big data, cybersecurity, intelligent retail, fintech, clean tech, e-health, connected transportation, entertainment, and gaming, to name a few. Again, I would suggest checking with them to see if any other areas apply. Some manufacturing have fallen into this area. Employers need to hire a student before applying. They have now temporarily put their pre-approval on hold, and they're recommending that you apply as soon as possible for your winter 2021 hires. And I would say that would be a good practice across the board for all the partners. And if you are hiring for January to April, you really should get that application in before the end of 2020. The link is there and their contact information. The next partner on the and they're new to this funding, is Magnet Student Work Placement. And Magnet pretty well covers any business that doesn't fall into any of the other partners' criteria. So registered businesses, not-for-profit, hospitals, long-term care facilities, post-secondary institutions, and they're funding full and part-time positions. You do need to hire a student before applying, but again, you can apply for pre-approval. And their link is below here. And I know during COVID, there was a lot of emphasis on healthcare positions. So definitely check out Magnet if none of the other partners seem to be a fit for you. Next. The mining industry, their program is called Gearing Up. And as their name implies, again, they're looking for companies within the mining or mineral exploration sectors. The applications are ongoing. And again, they're encouraging you to post your opportunity with the university or college of your choice. You do not need to have a candidate before you apply, and their link to apply is included here as well as their contact information. Thanks. TechNation. And TechNation formerly was ITAC, and their program is called the Career Ready Program, and not to be confused with the provincial Career Ready Program. This is their federal SWPP funding program. And their message sort of out is that tech touches pretty well everybody, and the Career Ready Program has opened eligibility to students outside of STEM as well, to include arts, business, and other interdisciplinary areas, and they now qualify. So you do need to have a candidate before you apply, and you can review. They have excellent resources, and you can review the employer application manual that'll walk you through it. I know TechNation very well because this is one that I work very closely with on a national level for colleges and universities as the college rep. If you don't have a candidate in mind, they're also using a Career Ready job portal through the Magnet site, or you can post directly with your college, university, or do both. And again, there are links below. They are encouraging, their applications have now opened. It opened on October 23rd for winter and spring, so you can apply now. And then again, their contact information if you have any questions. The Toronto Finance International, TFI, their program is called Aspire, and they're working with organizations in Canada in the financial services sector, so banks, insurers, pension plans, fintech, investment managers, hedge funds, credit unions. And the Aspire program is not actually a wage subsidy, but they offer supports and resources. So they have really good resources for training employers, best practices for recruitment, how to train your student, onboarding your student, really making that work placement valuable. So excellent resources there. And again, the link and contact information. And Venture for Canada, I'm not going to spend time on this slide. This funding is based for organizations in Atlantic Canada, but I just want to let you know, because you're going to see it on all the lists, Venture Canada is out there, but it won't pertain to anybody in Ontario. So to learn more, ESDC, we're hoping that they'll continue to keep this program going past our 2023-24 year, and they're continuing to explore other partners. So you can keep an eye on their website here to learn more about the program and their funding. So that wraps it up for SWPP. And again, before we go to the next slide, I just want to encourage you to reach out to each partner and really work with them. They're all wonderful to work with, and you can also reach out to your academic institutions for help identifying maybe the best partner who you should be reaching out to. Thanks. So the next on my list is the Canada Summer Jobs. And the Canada Summer Jobs has been around for quite a long time. And this is to help you find summer employees, and you can learn about wage subsidies that are available to hire students 15 to 30 years of age. The students have to be registered as full-time students in the previous academic year and intend to return to school. So any post-grad students ending on a work term would not be eligible for this. The student must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or person to whom refugee protection has been conferred under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. The candidate must have a social insurance number at the start of employment and be legally entitled to work in Canada in accordance with relevant provincial legislation and regulations. So eligible businesses include not-for-profit organizations, the public sector, private businesses with fewer than 50 employees. The application for this funding will open in January and close early February, and it's really recommended that you apply early because it's very popular funding. And more information in the application are at the link provided here on the slide. The Young Canada Works program, if you want to hire a young graduate for the summer, you may be able to benefit from this funding. The YCW matches new secondary and post-secondary graduates seeking work with prospective employers in heritage organizations, Indigenous urban youth centers, and businesses working in both official languages. And you can learn more about this funding at the link provided here. Apprenticeships, I always like to talk about apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are available for a lot of the trades, and this is a taxable credit for hiring an apprentice. Employers can receive 35 to 45% of apprentice's wage and a benefit up to $10,000 per year in the first 4 years of the apprenticeship, and the link is there for that. There is the apprenticeship job creation tax credit as well. That's equal to 10% of the salaries and wages paid to eligible apprentices, and the maximum credit that you can claim there is $2,000 per year for each eligible apprentice. And there's also some special apprenticeship employer signing bonus that's also available within specific trades. And you can partner and learn about this through part of their participation in the employer service program. And for more information, I provided the link to contact the Conestoga Career Center for our employers locally. There's also some provincial special projects and initiatives, and financial incentives are provided through the provincial government and may be available for hiring and training individuals. And these are changing all the time, so it's really hard to give you specifics, but often they cover short-term, entry-level, skill-based training that are occupation-specific. And right now, under the trades and apprenticeship, you can look at programs in carpentry, construction, millwright, welding, and women in skilled trade. And a contact for local funding in this would be trades@conestogac.owen.ca. And then there's also some funding under the healthcare area for personal support workers and long-term care assistants. And the contact for local funding for this would be Tina Platt, tplatt @conestogac.owen.ca. Next. There's also the Canada-Ontario Job Grant. And this is funding that is eligible for employers for training. So to up-train or skill train your current employees, and potentially you could, if you don't have any current employees you could train, you may be able to use this funding to hire a new employee and get that skill training in. This reimbursement is up to 84% of the training costs, to a maximum of $10,000 per trainee. And the contact for this, again, for the local funding for this would be Erica Ellis at Conestoga College Career Center, and her contact information is there by email. Next on my list is MyTax, and MyTax builds partnerships between academia, industry, and the world to create a more innovative Canada. And these funds are available to hire students for research work through academic partnerships. And there's multiple programs available, and you can visit the MyTac website for more information in the breakdown. And we have 2 excellent local contacts who can help you with this funding. Ashley and Amanda are both, I've worked with them both, and just fabulous for helping you figure this one out. So do reach out to them if you think this is an area that will fit with you. Next on my list is College and Institutes Canada, CETC, and they have a career launcher program. So you can register as an employer and get up to $30,000 to hire a new intern. And the Career Launcher internship can connect you with skilled students and grads suited to your business needs. And the criteria here for eligibility: you must have established payroll system set up to receive payment on direct deposit, and process for supervising and mentoring interns, and be a Canadian company or subsidiary in one of the following categories. So post-secondary education institute, again, this works great for partnering with post-secondary for research work, Aboriginal organizations or associations, small or medium-sized business, large corporations, non-government, not-for-profit, municipal or local, provincial or territory, government, institution, agency, or crown. I think they've covered pretty well everyone there. And you can learn more about the program at the link provided. And on the next slide, I wanted to specifically highlight one of the programs under this, which is the Digital Tech Internship for hiring new grads. And this is funding for hiring in the digital technology intern for up to 6 months in a full-time position. You can get up to $30,000 for their salary and training expenses. So up to $4,000 can be used for internal training, and funds can cover up to 100% of the intern's salary. And then again, the total contribution is a maximum of $30,000. So all the subsidies for this year, 2020, have been fully allocated, but there's going to be more information on spring applications coming in January 2021. So I wanted to put this kind of on your radar to pay attention and watch that website, because I think we're going to see a lot more companies wanting to take advantage of the digital tech internships. That's a great opportunity for you. The next one is the Project Learning Tree Canada. This will give you up to 50% wage match to employers hiring youth aged 15 to 30 into forest, conservation, and park jobs, up to a maximum of $5,712 per youth. Any organization that will offer work experience opportunity to students in the green sector, jobs, and work experiences must be from 8 to 16 weeks in duration and take place within Canada. And First Nations businesses, and community serving not-for-profits are eligible, and I've given you the link for that funding on the slide. And the last one I just included is the Ontario Innovation Tax Credit, 8% refundable tax credit. And I wanted to highlight this, just that expenses that are related to hiring a co-op student can be included in claiming this credit. So again, that's available to you, and the information is here, and the government website there. And you would claim that on your annual tax return. So I've covered a fair number, and there's funding is always changing. So it's really hard to say. There's maybe some that I've missed through my research myself, trying to find out, is there any new funding? But I wanted to draw attention to some tools that are available to you. So the first slide here, and I'm going to end with these tools, is the Innovation Canada Digital Resource Tool. This is a step-by-step survey tool that's going to ask you a series of questions and kind of walk you through, and then hopefully end up leading you to a list of resources that will be available to support your business. And so do use this tool and walk yourself through it to see what might be available to your company. And if you find some that I've missed, maybe point them out to me if they're specific to students. And then the next slide, Allison. The research funding search tools. So the funding portal will give you an online service for companies to search through the wide range of government grants and financing opportunities. And then there's also the Canadian Subsidiary Directory, which is an in-depth reference for provincial and federal grants, loans, and other funding opportunities for companies, and the link is there. So again, I hope that I was able to cover most of the student funding that's available to you and given you some resources for others. So we can open up to questions.
Great, thank you so much, Kitty. As a reminder, if you do have any questions for Kitty, please enter your question into the question box in your control panel now. So Kitty, we do have a couple of questions. The first one is there any requirement for additional insurance for staff who might be working from home but hired through any of the SWPP partners, I'm guessing? So if you do have co-op students or students working from home, is there any additional insurance that's required?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure that I am qualified to answer that one specifically. We look at that ourselves within our co-op, because we are looking at when we're, I know at Conestoga, and I can't speak for other institutions, but at Conestoga we are asking our employers to make sure that they have a business liability insurance that will cover that student working from their home where it could pertain to your business liability. If we're talking about workplace safety insurance coverage or within their home working, again, that, you know, I haven't seen any cases come up, and I don't know where that coverage would apply to a student working. Most students hopefully would have their own insurance within their own home and are going to be working safely, so the liability risks will be a lot lower. So again, that's, I apologize that I really cannot give an intelligent answer on that to say specifically what the rules would be. That would be something that you should probably check within your own organization.
Okay, great, thanks, Kitty. Another question that's come in, how is internship defined under the SWPP program? Under
SWPP? So we do hear the term internship, kind of often internship interchanges with co-op. So typically in an academic environment, when we're talking about an internship would usually, for us at Conestoga anyways, if I use the term internship, we might combine it with co-op internship, and we have programs that are 4 to 16 month length. So if I have a student working more than a 4-month term, I might call it an internship. A lot of times, even at the university level, if they have work terms that are 16 months or work experiences that are 16 months or 12 months in length, we will call those an internship rather than calling it a co-op, or we may, like I said, use the term co-op internship. When you look at my first slides around the cooperative education tax credit, they're identifying an internship as an 8 to 16 month work term. Internships, often companies, I have seen some companies call an intern, a co-op student an intern, and then post their job as an intern. So if we wanted to call that an internship, it could still be 4 months. So it's a very blurred definition. And we also see companies that will use the definition of internship at the end where they're actually starting out as a graduate. So I really can't tell you specifically, but within the relevance of SWPP, intern and co-op would fall under that same eligibility guidelines that we're typically looking at SWPP funding as a 4-month term, whether we say intern or we say co-op.
Okay, great, thank you. And just a point of clarification, somebody is just asking, funding is not stackable, correct?
Yes and no. So you can stack the SWPP or federal funding with provincial funding. So the way that could work is, for example, I could claim SWPP funding and maybe I get $5,000. and my total wages to that student were $10,000. So $5,000 of that got funded through SWEP. I can claim the additional $5,000 as a cooperative education tax credit. So the difference I can claim through the Ontario credit. I cannot claim, so if I had $10,000 in wages and I got $5,000 in SWEP, I cannot use that for any other federal funding. So I couldn't get let me use the right term here, I cannot get NSERC funding. I could not get, sorry, I'm going to make sure I use the right definition here. The Canadian, the funding that's available right now, the CES, and I'm not going to say that correctly. Sorry. Anyway, cannot get stacked with any other federal funding.
Okay,
You can't stack with provincial.
Okay. Should a business have had employees before applying to any of the programs?
Can you say that again, Allison? Ask me again.
Yep. Should the business have any employees before applying to any of the programs? So my guess is perhaps the question is there's a business owner and maybe the business owner is the only person in the business. So can they hire a co-op student and apply for this funding, which would essentially be the first employee besides themselves?
Yes. Yeah, definitely they can do that. When I'm working with my employers, I usually tell them, so most of the funding partners I'm working with do require that student to be on your payroll. So if it's just you, you're going to have to register yourself for payroll. But yes, I've had lots of startups where they're the only person and now you're ready to hire and you want to hire a student. So yes, you definitely, as long as you establish yourself for payroll, for my program areas anyway, you can move forward with that hire.
Okay, great. Another point of clarification. So there was a question that came in that says, what is connected transportation?
Connected transportation?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is pertaining to.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you referred to that in the presentation under one of the SWIP partners.
I'm just going to go back and check if that maybe fell under.
And that's okay.
Oh, connected, under ICTC, connected transportation.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe rail services or logistics.
Okay. Okay. So maybe a couple of quick closing questions because we are coming close to the top of the hour. And just I wanted to talk a little bit about timing. So we are in the fall semester right now. I know that co-op positions for the winter semester are being posted now. Can you talk a little bit about if there is a business out there that's interested in hiring co-op student in the winter, where are we in that recruitment process? How long, how kind of close to the winter semester can they post for a student? And then in terms of the SWIP applications, I know there's different funders, but how long in general do those applications take if somebody's interested?
So I would think that pretty well, even the universities that use a traditional rank and match are now into a continuous recruitment model across the board. So I would think most academic institutions at this point that still have students left, and I think we probably all do, I know I have students still looking for winter, would still be taking job postings. They probably are turning them around a lot faster. At Conestoga, we're turning them around in a week or less. So you still have lots of time. I would imagine across the board, as I mentioned, most programs, but again, I would say check with your academic partners on that. Reach out if you do have a student position. I do recommend you get it in sooner than later. We have seen our numbers are down for the winter term. So, but we do continuous recruitment, and as I mentioned, I think pretty well my partners in the region as well do recruitment right up until the last date that students can secure. And the winter term has been shortened for what students can secure for. So they've dropped it down to a minimum of 8 weeks. Although I do want to add a note to that: if you're hiring for 8 weeks, you're not eligible for the co-op tax credit. So you really should be looking at 10 weeks if you hope to claim that credit. So if we're talking about 10 weeks counting back from the end of April, that really takes you quite a bit further into the winter term than we traditionally would go. But normally, any academic institution that I'm aware of, if the students can get a 12-week work term in, they can usually secure right up until that first month. So in this case, the end of January. So I would say reach out to your academic partner if you do get a late posting. But if you know now that you want to hire, get your posting in, because obviously the applicant pool is going to go lower and lower. As for applying for the funding, it's always better to apply early, as soon as possible. I know the partner that I work really closely with, Tech Nation, just opened their funding for the winter, but they're doing funding for winter and spring. They just opened their applications October 23rd. And many of the partners I've seen in the past, I mean, they want to give this money out. They want to use the funds. So although they're encouraging you to apply early, if you've hired, all of a sudden decide and you end up hiring a student in, the third week of January, you should still be reaching out to those partners to see if you can apply for that January hire for the winter, because chances are, if they have the money, they're going to want to allocate it, and there are a lot of spots out there to fill. So I do recommend never assume you're past the deadline. Always just reach out and check.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Kitty, for joining us today and for sharing these wonderful resources with our guests. That brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you again to our title sponsor of the series, Manulife, our platinum sponsor of the series, the Immigration Partnership, and again, today's speaker, Kitty Runstedler. And finally, thank you to all of you for joining us today. As a reminder, we host a new Business Success Series session every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Join us next Wednesday as we hear from Andrew Perkins from Shop City as he discusses shifting to online selling with Shop KW and PowerShop. We hope to see you then. For full details and to register, visit greaterkwchamber.com. Please share the series with your friends and colleagues. Join us every Wednesday afternoon for the next edition of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce Business Success Series, brought to you by title sponsor Manulife, platinum sponsor Immigration Partnership, Waterloo Region. Because it's Wednesday, it's Business Success Series. Thank you all for joining us.